People who've used a bar's safe word drink to get out of a bad situation, what happened? Had a creeper at a hotel bar who wouldn't leave me alone despite my best efforts to ignore him. I even asked him politely and not so politely to leave me alone. He actually kept trying to touch me and told me that I was going to go to his room with him. He had a strange, angry edge too. So I gave the bartender a help me look and said to him something like, "I need to talk to you about that thing with my tab, remember?" And asked if I could do it when the bar closed, which was like 5 minutes later. He looked at me and said, "Give me a minute," and made a phone call and then said, "So they can help you at the front desk." Meanwhile, Creeper is literally not leaving me alone and is still trying to actually hang on to me and keeps talking. So I start to leave and Creeper is trying to kiss me and pull me close, but I tell him I have business at the front desk and walk up to the desk. There are about 3 employees there, and I said, "The bartender said you could help me with my tab." And one of the employees says, "Oh, I need you to come here with me to fix that." And she says to the guy, "You need to stay here, this is personal business." The employee, a woman, and I start to walk away, and of course the creeper followed us. She actually walked me to a staff elevator and he tried to get on with us. She told him, "Get out of here and leave us alone." As a male hotel employee came up to him just then and the elevator door shut. The employee walked me literally to my room door and stayed until I had it locked on the other side. I've had, and still occasionally do have, guys hit on me, but never anything like this before. I actually wrote a long email to the hotel corporate office and the actual hotel about the bartender and 2 employees, because they helped me in what I would say was above and beyond. The guy really frightened me. I've been as brand loyal as possible to that hotel chain ever since. Another time, I was in a bar in the States. I'd been a regular here for a little bit, and I knew the bar staff. A new guy comes in and starts hitting on the bartender. At first, he just seems to play along with it, so I ignore it. It's not my business. Time goes by, and he starts getting more and more aggressive on hints at her. He wants her number, but she's giving him excuses like, "Oh, my phone is broke right now," and eventually she says, "Look, enough, no." At this point, I'm paying attention, and he says she's just shy and she knows she would like it. She gets upset and she asks him to leave. I tell him he should leave. He ignores me and is still trying to smooth things over with her. Manager comes over, who is also a woman, and tells him he needs to leave. I tell him he needs to leave now. By this point, there was a group of 3 construction guys who had gotten up and come over to the bar, and he was told he needs to pay and leave right now, or we, the guys, will take care of him ourselves. At this point, he decides to pay and leave. The manager gave us all a round of free drinks. The guy came in again the next day when the owner was there. The owner called the police and trespassed him. Frick yes, construction guys. This is a kind of non-violent vigilante justice I think we can all get behind, right? Not a safe word per se, but my mum and friend went to a bar and a guy mugged her friend outside. She entered with her purse messed up and holding a shoe, and their male friend called over to the owner. He called out something like, "Woman down," and a bunch of men stood and went outside to search for this guy. Turns out a few years prior, a woman there was a victim of the unspeakable act. After that, the owner established a code phrase with the regulars for if a friend gets attacked. The place looks like a dive bar at first glance, but the owner was a serious gentleman and didn't even allow cursing in there. All I can picture is a bunch of drunk barflies pouring out of a bar ready to do battle, like some wacky version of that first scene in Gangs of New York. Dive patrons, assemble! Something opposite happened to me. This strange, much older guy wouldn't stop talking to me. I was in my mid-20s. I was shy, so I tried to act polite toward him, but I was visibly upset. A female bartender came up and asked if this guy was bothering me. I nervously chuckled, "Yeah, kinda," and gave her a look. The bartender laughed and said, "Leave the girl alone," or something similar to him in a joking voice, then walked away. The man said I was rude and walked away, only to come back and bother me a few more times. A couple of days later, a friend who frequents that bar said the bartender told him my story. She says I hurt the older guy's feelings and the bartender didn't appreciate it because he's kinda kooky, but a regular and means no harm. I don't go to that bar anymore. Had a bar call 911 once after they bounced a guy who was creeping out a woman. He stood outside the bar and flat out said he was waiting for her until she came out, which he did. He started following her and told people that they were together. I literally had to stand with this moron while this poor girl and her friends got into the car, and the absolute D-bag tried to stand really close so he could get the address. I told the driver her address, but gave the address of the jail, which most taxis know, and he seemed to get the hint. Guy tried to complain that we had unlawfully detained him just so he couldn't get the girl's number and address. I mean, yeah, that's basically what we did. Move along. I've actually been used to escape by a random before. Was at a local bar with a bunch of friends, and out of nowhere, a girl walks over, sits on my lap, and between teeth, clenched smile just said, "Pretend to know me." I laughed and loudly said, "Hey you, where did you wander off to?" Thankfully, my friends picked up on it because inside of 10 seconds, a few of my female friends were chatting with her, and standing between her and the guy she'd fled. I asked her after what about me made her know I was a safe person to turn to, and she said, "Because you're here with a bunch of women. Total honesty. I thought you were gay." Haha. I'm a bouncer in a nightclub. No drink safe words, but we actively keep an eye out for situations which don't look above the radar. If a girl's leaving with a guy and she looks too intoxicated to stand, I'll take her aside and ask what his name is and how she knows him. If she seems to have had something slipped in her drink, I'll call the police. If she's scared or needs help getting away from a bad situation, I'll call her a cab and walk her to it. I'll also say to the bloke that I need to see some ID because his entry stamp isn't the right one. As soon as I see it, I'll take a photo, pass it on to the police, and ban him for life from our club. We've built up a reputation as the safest nightclub in our area, which draws both crowds, especially girls. It's massively helped our business being so focused on safety. In 2012, I was at an undressed beach in Toronto. A random 60-year-old man approached me. At the time, I was a shy 18-year-old, and he simply wouldn't leave. He talked on and on about how I could come live with him at his house and be his girlfriend, all the while not letting me get a word in edgewise. To escape this situation, I decided to call the day a loss and leave, even though I'd only just arrived. As I walked back to the ferry, he emerged from the trees and followed me back to the mainland. He was still planning out our lives together and offered to buy us lunch at a local bar chain. Not wanting to lure the scary guy back to my apartment, I agreed in the hopes of stalling and figuring out a plan. We sat down at a table by the door and I said I had to go to the bathroom. And as I passed the bar, I gave the bartender, a 20-something female, the 411 on this creepy guy situation. I asked if there was a back door somewhere I could slip out of and leave without him noticing. She replied that there was one through the kitchen, but it was for staff only and she couldn't help me. I felt so betrayed that another female wouldn't intervene at all and cried a little bit in the bathroom. I was so young, new to the city and genuinely scared. I didn't even have a phone back then, I was so broke. When I got back to the table, the food came. I ate 2 bites and when he called for the check as he waited for the bill, I said, "Well, this was," and ran into the street. But I still took some crazy side treks before getting on the subway. That sounds awful. The bartender definitely should have helped somehow, or at the very least got the manager involved if she couldn't handle it. I had to use it when on a date off Tinder. We met up and he'd already got me a drink, just sitting there, a shot of something clear, and then he said to me that I should do it. Then he would take me somewhere better for more fun. I wasn't comfortable, so I excused myself to the bathroom and saw a poster that said to ask for Angela if you're uncomfortable. Went to the bar and asked for Angela, and immediately this guy was playing along saying, "Oh yeah, she's working in the kitchen tonight." And he got me a taxi and walked me to the back door and into the taxi to make sure I got there without any hassle. Never saw the guy again. Are you saying that when you arrived at the bar, he had already ordered you a drink and it was there waiting for you? Yikes. I went out on my own one night and was having a few drinks at a local pub. I just moved to the area, so I didn't really know anyone. A guy sat down next to me and was chatting. At first, this was just casual, but he eventually became really tipsy and handsy. Then the guy actually kissed me just out of the blue, and I told him I was not okay with it. He said I was leading him on, which was not the case at all. He got angry and stormed off to the washroom. I was feeling really uncomfortable and unsafe. I didn't know my new neighborhood yet. The bartender saw that I was feeling off right away. He didn't even know me but could tell. He asked if I wanted to be shown out the back door and if they could put me in a cab home so that I could go without the guy following me. They even paid and apologized that I felt unsafe in their bar. I was totally blown away, and I would totally go back there and feel completely taken care of. Heck yes, bar manager. If you can't confront the guy, this is an excellent way to deal with the situation. I think most clients would even be glad at the option without the taxi fare paid for, but that's a great gesture. This is a relatively new thing, but some of us girls have been doing some form of it for a long time. Back when I was a bartender, I noticed a girl stumble into the pool table. She was crying and clearly very intoxicated. I went over to ask if she was okay, and some guy I hadn't seen her with all night jumps up and says, "I'm her boyfriend. I've got her." No, the frick you do not. We got her to calm down and give us her phone to call her roommate so someone safe could take her home. It sucks that it's necessary, but I'll always love my boss from that bar because he threw that creep out, physically. We saw her again, she didn't have a boyfriend or remember that night. Working as a bartender and bouncer for the past couple of years, I usually just try to watch for body language of people that are in the bar. If it looks like someone needs a quick escape, I'll approach and pretend I'm an old friend that hasn't seen them in a while. If they don't actually need help, I can excuse myself by saying they look like a friend. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out Easy Mode, also linked below, and subscribe. My university town had the highest number of incidents of attempted unspeakable act for 5 years in a row. The school and community took it very seriously and implemented procedures all over the place. I asked my friend who was a bouncer at my favorite bar and nightclub, what happens when a girl orders the drink? He said it changes from week to week in the ladies' bathroom to confuse men when word gets out. You can use any of the former ones and the bartenders will jump into action. Generally, they find a way to get you away from that person, whether it be a phone call or they need to show you something. Once you're out of eyesight, they whisk you away to the opposite floor of the place. The bar is on the bottom, the club is on the top, and they keep the date occupied until you're gone. If he gets away from his company, they radio that the drink got spilled and every bouncer abandons their post to try and keep him away from you. They escort you out the back door into a waiting cab. They pay the cabbie to take you home and make sure you're not followed. When you get home, they ask that you flick your front porch lights on and off and call the club to let them know that you're safe. They also save the security cameras from that day in case you have need of it at a later date. I never used their service because my friends were the bouncers and usually intervened before I needed to say anything. My friends did use the service though, and they said it was a relief to be in a bar that took women's safety so seriously, because in other bars in that town you could pay a bartender $20 to spike a drink. I learned the hard way to never accept a glass from someone who had their open palm over the glass. Some people are really sick. Recently happened to me. I met up with an ex after roughly 5 years of not seeing him. He seemed way off when I arrived at the bar. Forgot his wallet, not surprised, so I bought the round of beers but immediately closed the tab because I wasn't expecting to pay for him and didn't want him taking advantage. When I excused myself to the restroom, I was already regretting the evening. I left the restroom and he was standing outside the door. Every alarm in my body went off, but I just acted annoyed and questioned him. He mumbled something and walked over to a pinball machine. Never played it, just looked at it for a solid 10 minutes. Which gave me enough time to call my bartender over and ask, "Girl to girl, this guy's on substances, right?" She agreed and asked me if I felt safe. I obviously didn't, so she let me exit through the back door and even got her bar back to walk me to my car. Not sure if anything would have happened, but I'm really glad she was so cool about it. In conclusion, my ex showed up for drinks, obviously out of his mind, and the bartender helped me escape. I'm a bartender in a small town. Anytime a new woman comes into the bar, I let her know that if she ever feels uncomfortable or needs anything, to ask me to go out for a smoke with her. I've had plenty of people use it to get away from some of the usual creeps, but nothing beats the night a guy asked this girl to go home with him. After she politely refused, he grabbed her and called her the B word. We already had our eye on the situation, and my bouncer immediately came out of nowhere and tased this drunk idiot. I had a creep corner me in a bar once and tried to stroke my thigh. Then another dude I've never met before came up and said, "Hey sis, I've been looking all over for you," and he put his arm around me and walked me out. "Thank you so much, stranger." It was pretty obvious that they were not working together. The nice guy walked over from a group of friends, all college-aged, and the creep was in his 50s. And when I said he walked me out, he just walked me to the door of the bar. I once got hugged by a random girl sitting at a bar who whispered in my ear, or actually talked normally, the music was loud, "Pretend to be my boyfriend." I grabbed her on the thigh and yelled, "Honey, I've been looking for you." The guy who'd been hitting on her gave me the "Sorry, I had no idea it was your girl" look, and then she asked me to dance. She pulled me into the crowd and we danced for like 30 seconds and she gave me a smile and left. Never saw her again, but I felt like a frickin' hero. Very small thing I did, but I felt great. Semi-related, but I was out at the pub on a campus for a show, and had been there previously in the day celebrating our last exam with some friends. Some guy who was sitting at a table next to us and trying to chat us up earlier was still there with his buddies and was drunker and braver, and of course he got me alone when my friend went to the bathroom. He wouldn't stop talking to me and getting in my face and yelling about himself, And when I excused myself to go to the bar, literally was like, "Okay, bye." He followed me to the bar and ordered the same thing as I did and offered to pay, and I said I was good and he didn't stop talking. I must have looked mad as frick because the bartender walked over and went, "Hey, you were here earlier, right? Buddy, give us a second, I need to speak with her about her tab." The guy leaves and the bartender tells me I looked distressed and asked if everything was okay. I told him I was fine, but this guy was in my personal space and not leaving. So he said that if he doesn't stop that, I should come back and order a whiskey lemon, and security would be notified and he would walk me back to my car if I needed it. We ended up moving tables, and I think he got too drunk to stand up and left not too long after that. But I was so relieved to know that the bartender was watching out. I'm not one for confrontation, and it just feels so much safer to be able to duck out with someone having my back. I'm going to ask at work tomorrow if we could install a safe word drink policy at the bar. That would be such a great idea. Oh, follow-up. I suggested it to one of the managers and a couple of others today, and they like the idea. The next stop is getting our general manager to implement it. Not exactly a safe word drink, but some adult clubs still have an alcohol-free code phrase for the dancers that don't want to get hammered and don't want to refuse drinks. For example, with an extra lime wedge, and the guy still gets charged for a normal drink, so he's none the wiser. Where I live, we once had an epidemic of pickup artists on every corner. There was this one guy who was incredibly persistent and wouldn't take no for an answer. When I told him I had a boyfriend, he wouldn't let me leave and said I had to give him one of my friend's numbers. Thank God a kind girl noticed what was happening and came up to us while saying, "Well, there you are. We've been looking for you. Come on, let's go. The show is going to start." She got me away from him, and I was so thankful. To anyone out there, please don't ever do it. It's such repulsive and scary behavior. Well, I knew this topic would be full of gross dudes, and my expectations have not really been subverted. Thankful that most of them end with these D-bags getting blown off. I'm a straight guy, and I had a girl rescue me once from an uncomfortable situation. I was at a bar with a couple of buddies, and these two girls were sitting in front of us that none of us were even interested in, let alone said anything to them at all. They started trying to chat us all up. When asked what we do for a living, I said I was a garbage man and had kids, in the hope that that alone would be enough for them to move on. But unfortunately, no. So I must have been looking around the bar with the eyes that said, "Get me the frick out of here." And this nice girl I'd never met came by and did the, "Hey you, I haven't seen you in forever" thing, and gave me a great big hug, which of course I thanked her for. She saw I was super uncomfortable and needed rescuing, so she saved me. I repaid her kindness with drinks, and we met up later for a movie. Since then, I've been more aware of the signs and would help a stranger if ever the need presented itself. A guy I was with was super adamant about me keeping up with him, slamming his drinks. He would drag me to the bar and order for me, then egg me on to drink faster. I did not want to be drunk with him. He ordered me a vodka soda, and I maintained that slightly pained look on my face, hoping to catch the bartender's attention. When he looked my way, I widened my eyes a little and subtly shook my head no. I watched him as he poured my drink by faking the vodka pour and just filling me with what I presume was soda water. Not normally my drink of choice, so I wasn't sure what it was. Kinda looked like stale Sprite, and he garnished it with a lime and everything. Said, "Cheers," when he handed us our drinks. This continued for a while until Drunky McSmashy Pants wanted to leave. Bartender said to me, "Oh, you'd asked about seeing Megan, right? Yeah, she's in the back. Go ahead while he closes out." I sort of hovered by the restrooms, which were tucked away, watching the bartender BS the dude for a while, and he eventually left looking all annoyed. When the coast was clear, I came out and said my thank yous, and he said, "Anytime. Happens more than we care to admit." So I thought it was pretty cool that the bartenders were aware enough to pick up on the little signs and help a sister out. I guess during their conversation, he basically convinced the dude that I didn't seem into it, and he thought he saw me leave already. The drunk dude was drunk, so I guess he bought it without further intervention necessary. Not a bar, but a grocery store I used to work for had a safe word. The store did a lot of sponsorship, charities, community outreach, and other things, and in particular was a partner with a women's advocacy group. There was a product in the store that was never ever put on sale, so that if any employee was asked what the sale price on that item was, then one employee would distract the guy with customer service while she was shown the product she was looking for, i.e. brought to the store office by way of the back room. The bar never had a safe word, but we had a lot of reasons to get to action. Rough crowd, really. A couple came in, the woman had smeared makeup and both just looked super angry. The girl whispered to the bartender that he was hitting her outside. We called the police and had her come to the back as the guy just sat there dumbfounded. Cops came and put him in cuffs and he's denying it all. The manager came in to get the video for the side camera. She played it and the cops came back out and released him and cuffed her. She had tried to stab him outside and broke his windshield. Great night, and he drank free the rest of the night. I've experienced the bartender hero before. Out with a friend in DC, a guy comes up and stands way too close, introduces himself and shakes my hand way too hard and way too long. I had to actually pull my hand away and he kept the grip. I politely told him I was visiting a friend I hadn't seen in a while and wanted to spend my time with her and turned my back. He kept standing there, trying to talk to me. I again, but more firmly, told him I wasn't interested. He stayed. He orders another drink and the bartender serves him, all the way at the other end of the bar. Actually showed him his drink and said it will be over there and walked it as far away as he could. I thought that was brilliant. He got a very, very good tip from us. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.